In this part, we are going to show the Far East countries, and I will be presenting Japan. Konnichiwa. Japan is a country with a lot of traditions, peculiar history, philosophy, and symbols which are deeply cherished and guarded by all Japanese. Japan is rather far from Central Europe and Central Russia, but there are a lot of students who come to Kazan and Kazan Federal University to study here from Japan. Probably the most recognizable symbol of all is called Hinomaru. Here it is. It symbolizes the sun on the white background. So it means the place where the sun actually rises, the place where the sun actually gets up. Actually, when we hear these words, we think about harmony and beauty, creativity and perfection, pride, and a lot of hardworkingness. That's what these symbols teach us and tell us. But what are other important associations of Japan? We all know kimono, origami, ikebana, samurai, Toyota, and of course it's hard to imagine our life here in Tatarstan and Kazan without sushi or karaoke. But have you ever heard about tempura, mikado, onsen, seppuku, and some other symbols? And what do these symbols teach us? One of other important features of the Japanese language is, of course, its writing system. The writing system of the Japanese language consists of several parts, the main of which is kanji, the hieroglyphs borrowed from the Chinese language. Another feature is its own alphabets, two alphabets which are called hiragana and katakana. The grammar and phonetics of the Japanese language are not so complicated as the writing system, and it has some correspondences and similarities to the Tata language. That is why there are so many Japanese students who come to Tatarstan to study the Tata language, as these two languages have much in common. In Japan, writing is not only the process of writing something, it is the process of understanding the nature, understanding the world, and in the process of writing, each Japanese tries to understand what is going on around him. He tries to understand the aesthetics and the beauty of the surroundings. And that is why when the Japanese are writing something, when they're writing some curves and lines and dots, they show the real meaning of the world. For example, this kanji, this hieroglyph, sekai, which means the world, consists of two elements. The first one being something connected with sanctuary, sacred places, and holy things, and the second meaning the meeting. And in this hieroglyph, we can see that the Japanese try to understand the world in the process of writing. The art of writing and scribing, which is called calligraphy, also helps to concentrate and to be patient. These are the qualities some Japanese can teach some people here in Russia. And this art of concentration and patience is confirmed by some sayings. For example, ishi no ue ni mo sannen, which means that when you sit on a stone for 3 years, it can become hot, it can become warm. The Japanese are ardent admirers of observing nature, the moon, the sun, sakura, and of course Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji, for instance, represents something strong, something majestic, something great, and something unexpected, something surprising. While sakura, for instance, represents youth, some new understanding of life, and freshness. That's what the Japanese are looking for in the surroundings, and that's what they usually find in what surrounds them. Japanese craving for finding beauty in everything really impresses all foreigners. The Japanese would contemplate falling leaves, snow in winter, the mountains, the blossoming sakura, and of course the full moon. Here at the picture we can see something which really attracts the Japanese attention. That's the Mount Fuji and the sakura in full bloom. Other two pictures represent the place which is quite popular for its pilgrimage routes and of course for its holy and sacred itineraries. This place is called Nikko, and the Japanese would say that unless you have seen Nikko, you cannot say what real beauty is. Nikko o mirazu, kekko to iwazu. The Japanese find harmony and beauty in all possible shapes and forms. If for the Europeans the real beautiful blossoming flower is the representation of essential harmony, then for the Japanese it is not only the blossoming flower which represents this utter beauty, it is sometimes even the fading flower. So the Japanese are the people who find some nuances and aspects of beauty even in the fading things, and they call this phenomenon mono no aware. It means the things grief and sorrow. So when something is fading, something is declining, something is out of fashion, it represents for them even greater beauty, even greater harmony than the things which are in full bloom, for example, like flowers, in full beauty, for example, young people, and so on. Another peculiarity of the Japanese people and the Japanese culture is that they are not very enthused to share their emotions. They think it is overabundant, rude, and not beautiful. So you should understand, you should feel the meaning of what they're saying. Everything that they say is not expressed directly. So it is expressed in the implicit form rather than the explicit form. That is why there are so many pauses in the Japanese language. As the result of this lack of self-expression, a lot of Japanese suffer. And if we add such trait of the Japanese character as perfectionism, then we can understand and we can guess how restricted these people are. That is why a lot of students and young people in Japanese try to be non-conformists. They try to break the rules, they try to express themselves in the way which is not actually the way it used to be in the past. And that is why there are so many people interested and obsessed with manga, anime, different computer games, and cosplays, for instance. These people are called otaku. When the degree of this self-expression, lack of self-expression is too high, these people even close themselves up in their rooms, not wanting to work, not wanting to go out, not wanting to speak with others. And these people are called hikikomori. And this is the real suffering, this is the real problem in the modern Japan. Geographically speaking, Japan is the country of about 6,000 isles, and it is isolated from other countries, and it isolates its national identity from others. That is why the dominating nation in Japan is, of course, the Japanese themselves, constituting about 98% of all residents who are currently living in Japan, with 1% represented by the Chinese and Koreans, and another 1% represented by other nations, other nationalities, which are currently living in Japan. And these nations understand that if you are not born in Japan, then you will not be considered as one of them. You will never be considered as one of them. So the country is only for the Japanese people. However, sometimes Japanese men and women marry the representatives of other nations and other countries, for example, China, Korea, the United States of America, and the Filipino Islands. And if the pair is ready for the difference in mentality, then the outcome may be positive. This phenomenon is called kokusai kekkon, which means the marriage with a representative from the foreign country. And there are some marriages with the Russian people and the Tatars, but not so many. So if we can count, then the amount of the Russian people who are currently living in Japan is not more than 10,000 people. And talking about the Tatars, the amount is even fewer. Many Japanese nowadays point out the importance of having a good wife, which is represented by the saying "Akusai wa roku junen no fusaku," which means that it is better to have a wife, to have a good wife, than having good crops. Japan is multi-religious like Tatarstan. Here we can see the representatives of Shinto, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, and some other beliefs and teachings, concentrated on a small territory and practicing their religions on the small territory. The main Japanese religion is called Shinto. That's the religion of nature, and that is why many Japanese like observing and contemplating nature so much. Another Japanese religion is called Buddhism. That is why the Japanese are so ardent admirers of enlightenment and transformations. There is also Confucianism in Japan, and according to the beliefs of Confucianism, the Japanese society is quite patriarchal, they love order, and they're very hardworking. So, as we can see, Japan is quite peculiar and sometimes even shockingly surprising, which makes it quite attractive for many foreigners, including Russians.